Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to IFFGD's Research Award Winner Series titled Where Are They Now? This program was designed not only to acknowledge this year as being IFFGD's 30th anniversary, but to also give us a chance to reconnect with some of our past Research Award winners. And today we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Miranda, who was our 2011 IFFGD Research Award winner for Junior Investigator in Basic Science. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Miranda.
My pleasure. I can't believe it's been that long.
I know 2011 seems like it was so far away. But yeah, so can you tell us just a little bit about yourself, maybe where you're currently located and your current research focus?
Sure. I'm in Milwaukee, at Milwaukee and Children's Hospital, Wisconsin, and I've been there my entire career. I've spent my entire 17-year career really investigating functional bowel disorders in children, and in the past, I was doing animal research and animal mechanistic research in the area of visceral pain. And so I spent most of my time clinically dedicated to children with functional bowel disorders.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us just a little bit of background. Can you tell us a little bit about how winning the IFFGD award in 2011, about maybe how it impacted your career or helped influence your career in research?
Yeah, so that award was one of the first awards that I received, and I remember being very excited about it because um, it was a meeting that really brought some of the most influential and bigger names in the field every couple of years to a meeting that we used to have with IFFGD. And it gave me that little bit of money to do extra research in the animal lab. At the time, I was doing mostly basic science studies, and that can be expensive. And sometimes getting money to do studies is hard. And so I think that really helped me, not just financially, but it really, as a young investigator, it's one of those things that really catapults your career and to start thinking about what would it be like to win another award or even a major national award in NIH money and things of that sort.
Yeah, it definitely keeps you motivated, huh? Just to continue that path of research.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you briefly touched about kind of what you're doing currently, but can you go into more detail about maybe some of the current studies that you're involved in?
Well, my career took a slightly different trajectory than most people. I, I, I continue, as I said, continue to see patients in the clinic. But about 3 years ago, actually 3 years ago this month, I made a slight career change. I knew I didn't want to stop seeing patients. That's something that I'm passionate about, something that I love, especially children with functional bowel disorders and chronic pain. But I decided that I was going to go a little bit outside of that, and I joined the company, Innovative Health Solutions. And what we did was we developed a device to help children with chronic pain and functional abdominal pain. And it's been an eye-opening experience, very fun, very challenging, but a completely different world that I was used to in the academic world. And so this is more of an entrepreneurial opportunity, but also something that I looked at and thought perhaps that if we develop something that's non-pharmacologic, that's safe for children, I could have a bigger impact. And I know that I can impact patients on a daily basis in clinic. But if you do it at a much larger scale, perhaps my goal ultimately is to have a greater impact on a larger number of patients. And that's part of the reason I did it.
Yeah, and so you're talking about wanting to make an impact on, just the patient community in a whole, but can you tell us just a little bit of maybe about how this career change might help you better understand GI disorders in children?
Absolutely. And I think that for me, dating back to my training and when I started research, without the data and without research, there's really, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can come up with treatments, you can talk about anecdotal experience, but you need to show the data. And I think that that's where, for me, now, whether I'm in the clinical setting or whether I'm in with the company, I think doing the basic science studies, doing the clinical studies are key to success. Not just to go through and convince the FDA to give you approval, but to convince the scientific community, and more importantly, to do what's right for children, to show that things are safe, to show that things are working, that they work properly. It's not just about, you know, the entrepreneurial or making money. It's really about children, and that's our passion, in making sure that we are developing the proper treatments. And there's only one way to do it, and that's through science.
Yes, for sure. And it's crazy how a lot of the treatment options that are available out there for GI disorders are mostly targeted for the adult community and not necessarily for the pediatric population. So it's just really cool to hear from someone like you and a doctor like you who's really passionate about finding ways to help treat children who are suffering from GI disorders, because these conditions can be very debilitating and can be life-changing for not only the patient but also the caregivers.
Exactly. No, and you know, again, this is not intended to be a plug for our company or for me, but really what we did was come up with the first indication for children with functional abdominal pain.
Mm.
And we did it the reverse, just like you said. All studies are done in adults first, and then we end up using, as pediatricians, we end up using medications that have never been tested in a real study in children just because they work in adults. And we know that that's not right, but our hands are tied and we're limited with the data that we have, and we're limited with the information. And a lot of these companies don't want to do studies in children. And so we end up using what we consider, what we call off-label uses for a lot of these medications that are not indicated for children and at a risk. And so what we did is the opposite. We decided to do a study in children first and show the safety and efficacy. And now we're starting to do one of the studies in adults. But ultimately, it's not done often. And I get asked that question all the time. Well, why would you do a study in children first? And my answer is, why not? Let's show it. Let's prove it. And I think that's important.
Yes, I love that. I love the why not part. I mean, that's just part of being a researcher, being able to be the mastermind behind something that's never been thought of before. So I know we were talking about the IFFGD Research Award and really how that motivated you in your career. But what other acknowledgments have you received, maybe since 2011 or before then?
Well, I think that, you know, I've received some other awards in research, and I think that young investigator awards, and things of that sort. I've also been a part of certain committees with the NASPGHAN committees and also Rome. And I think that those are all, you learn something from all of them, and you end up, you know, taking bits and pieces to eventually help you in whatever area your career you're going to do. But ultimately, you know, the field that I'm in now, I think that it's growing. It's exciting to see all the new research that's coming out, all the great investigators that are jumped on and started doing great work on microbiome and looking at the disorders of the brain-gut interaction, and how this field has really exploded in the last 10 years. And I think IFFGD honestly has played a huge role in this, in patient advocacy and research and promoting this to get more people involved and get more people excited about it, and even advocacy in Capitol Hill.
Yeah, and just continuing to raise awareness, really. And like you said, just all of the advancements that are being made in the field, is very exciting. And speaking of that, what do you enjoy about being a researcher the most, and why?
You know, it's one of those things that's really hard to explain, but I get so excited with data. When I see positive data, whether it be in an animal study or whether it be something that worked and you see a difference in the treatment, it's just, there's something that happens to me that I get so excited and I can't wait to communicate it. And I think that's what research provides. You know, everybody always thinks about research as it could be dull. I mean, most of the data that you collect, you don't even use, and it's useless data. But then there's that small piece that you collect that's meaningful and that you know will make an impact or could make an impact. And that's the part that just gets your juices flowing and it just makes you excited. And I really can't explain why I get excited with data, but I do. And that's just who I am.
Well, I mean, I can imagine that maybe just seeing the data, it just gives you that little bit of glimmer of hope that, you know, you're on the breaking point of being able to help another patient. And I think that's what's so cool about even just, like you said, finding the data that maybe you throw out later, but still it's moving us towards a better future for GI patients.
Right.
Yeah, so what do you see as being some of the gap needs still in research in the area of GI disorders, and how do you foresee the future of research and how to fulfill some of those gap needs?
Yeah, I think that even though we talk about how much we we've advanced the field and everything that has been done so far, I think there still needs a lot. There's a lot that can be done. I think that if you look at how people perceive functional bowel disorders has changed, but we still have a ways to go. And so, you know, people don't see it as a life-threatening condition a lot of times. People don't see it as something that, you know, because they can't find pathology on biopsies that perhaps maybe it's not as meaningful as inflammatory bowel disease. And I think we still have work to do to convince people that these are conditions that affect people's lives and it's as impactful as, you know, organic conditions like Crohn's disease and other conditions that could really impact a child's life. And so I think that there's still that gap that needs to be filled in terms of educating people on how meaningful these conditions are. Because believe it or not, there's still people out there that believe that some of these conditions are in your head and that you can control it. And I still get referrals from people, from physicians who have told them, this is in your head, you know, suck it up. And I think that if we still have people believing that, then we haven't done our job fully to educate the scientific community and other providers and raise as much awareness as we think we should.
Yeah, and definitely finding a way to really just bridge the gap between science and the patient community. And like what you said too, just really raising awareness to really validate the feelings and symptoms that patients are feeling and validate those through research. So like you said, there's plenty more for us to learn, but I think too that's the most exciting part, is to know that there's so many researchers out there who are just as excited as yourself to
Yeah.
those.
And you know, the gap that exists in children really is the treatment arm, because we, like I said before, we're using a lot of the medications without real evidence that they work, right, in children. In fact, some of the most common medicines that we use to date do not have good evidence that they're safe or effective. Some of them have not beaten placebo in clinical trials, but we continue to use them because we don't have anything else. And so there needs to be more studies looking at better treatment options that are safe and effective in children. And I think that that's part of what's lacking, and people aren't investing the time or the energy in doing these studies because, like we mentioned earlier, they're doing them in adults, or, you know, the pediatric population is just too risky. But I think we need to do better in terms of treatment options, whether they be pharmacological or neuromodulation devices. And we already know that the psychological pieces work, and we haven't gotten close to make it fully available to every patient.
Yeah, and you know, it's just thank you so much for really just raising awareness for that area of gap need, especially in the pediatric patient population. Um, I think we can all be advocates for everyone in the GI community, but I think in terms of the pediatric population, we as parents and caregivers, we definitely have to be more of an advocate because some patients and some children can't speak up for themselves. So I thank you for bringing attention and awareness to that area as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, thank you to everyone who has tuned in to our IFFGD Research Award Winner Series, Where Are They Now? It's been a pleasure to really catch up with Dr. Miranda and, just learn more about his journey through research since connecting with him in 2011 when he won the 2011 IFFGD Research Award. So again, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today and joining us.
It is my pleasure. Thank you.